One of the most iconic and recognizable symbols today is that of an apple with a little sliver bitten out of it. This, of course, is the symbol of the Apple Corporation, famous for its wonderful products such as the iPod, the iPad, and the iPhone. However, an apple has got a different symbolism altogether, because for many people, the apple was the fruit of sin. The apple was the fruit that Eve consumed. She was tempted by the snake, the serpent. She then gave it to her husband, Adam, and the rest, of course, is history. They were expelled from the Garden of Eden, and all of mankind changed forevermore. What's very interesting is that in our traditional sources, there is absolutely no mention of an apple. The Torah itself does not tell us what the tree was, only that it was a beautiful tree, and it describes the fruit. The fruit was good to look at, it was good for the mind, it was good for the senses, but it doesn't tell us what type of a tree it was. And there's a reason for that, say our sages. God didn't want to identify the tree so that it shouldn't have a bad reputation, that people would avoid the tree. But there is a fascinating discussion amongst our sages as to exactly what tree this was, what fruit it was. And here we find 4 opinions. One of the opinions was that it wasn't really a tree, it was actually wheat. Another opinion says that it was a vine, that was grapes. Yet a third opinion says that it was a fig. And the final opinion said it was an etrog, the same fruit that we use on the festival of Sukkot. What is their discussion about? What are these sages arguing? And what they're arguing about is different emotional aspects of a human being, different character traits of a human being. What has got the most powerful pull on us that will bring us down? Well, one opinion says it was wheat. Our sages tell us that wheat is brain food, and that a child is not able to consume wheat until they have a certain ability to discern and to call out and to say, mommy, mommy. Wheat is something that appeals to the intellect. Moreover, wheat as a simple raw product is inedible. It has to be changed, it has to be processed, and this requires human intellect. And therefore, for that sage, what is going to bring down a human being when there is a corruption in the intellect? That was what appealed to Eve. Her intellect was corrupted, and she consumed of this fruit, or in this case, it was wheat. Another opinion says it was grapes. Well, why grapes? And of course, the answer to that is from grapes we get wine. And wine appeals to our emotions. When a person drinks wine, it enhances their emotions. If they're feeling joyous, it'll make them even more joyous. And therefore, according to this sage, what is the aspect of man that is most likely to be corrupted? The emotional aspect. You can be a very intellectual person. You can be a very balanced person. But when your emotions are taken hold of, when you become fiery and passionate, that can bring you down. And therefore, he identifies the fruit as the grape. Yet a third opinion says it was a fig. And a fig, at least in our traditional sources, is always associated with something that's very tasty and very sweet. And that connects to our physical bodies, our physical lusts and desires. And that, according to this particular rabbi, is what can bring a person down to their knees, when you give in to your physical desires. She looked at that fruit and it looked so delicious and so tasty. And yes, a person can be intellectual and a person can be completely emotionally balanced. But when they're overcome with lust and physical desires, it can bring them down. But there's a fourth opinion. And the fourth opinion says, no, it was an etrog. Why? Because an etrog is an all-encompassing fruit. It includes the intellectual aspect, it includes the emotional aspect, and it includes the guf, it includes the bodily aspect. And therefore, this last opinion says, no, don't look at man as being different components. Look at man as a totality. Man has an intellect. Man has emotions. Man has physical drives. And if all of these are somewhat out of balance, it's going to bring a person down. And that's what it was. So it was more than a simple case of somebody eating a fruit or eating an apple. It was a question of what is actually the most dangerous thing for a human being. What can bring us down? What can corrupt us? So yes, it may be that out there in the world, we always associate the first sin with the apple. But according to our sages, it certainly wasn't an apple. Either it was wheat, it was grapes, it was figs, or maybe it was even the etrog. But what we can do on Sukkot is to take that etrog that may have brought corruption and lift it up, to say a bracha over it, and to acknowledge that we can use all of our faculties and all of our senses and all of our different aspects as human beings in the service of God. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.